Rockefeller, Carnegie, the Vanderbilts, Ford, Rousing, and the Rotschilds. What do all these families have in common? Yes, they were all the tycoons of their time and built great businesses and enterprises, but more relevant to this video is the generational wealth that they created that has long outlasted them after they've passed away and has been passed down to their ancestors, families, and to support their charitable and philanthropic endeavors also. So what can we learn from these great families? Well, it's all about how do we build generational wealth that supports not just us in our lifetimes, but also our children, grandchildren, ancestors, and our charitable and philanthropic endeavors also, long after we've passed away. In this video, I'm going to share 7 steps to building generational wealth. It doesn't matter whether you've got $1 million in the bank, $1 billion, or nothing at all. These steps are timeless and priceless and can apply to anyone. So here goes. And make sure you hang around for all 7 steps because some of them may actually surprise you. So step number 1, setting financial goals. So step number 1 is setting financial goals. And as the old adage goes, you need a map. Without one, you may get lost. So you want to ask yourself, what do you really want to achieve with your money? What are you trying to achieve? What are your goals? Do you want to retire early? Do you want to send your kids to college? Do you want to travel around the world, buy a nice car, house, whatever it may be, support your charities, etc. Being very specific about why you're trying to build wealth will keep you motivated and keep you focused. And that's super important. Now, my wife and I are very clear about why we want to build generational wealth. And not only during our lifetimes, we love nice exotic holidays. We try and take 2 every year. We want to send our kids to really good schools so they get a great education, and to support our families and our charities that we support also. So it's really important to us. But we also want to build wealth that not only looks after us in our old age, but also long after we've passed away and looks after our children, our loved ones, and continues to support our charities. But we also ensure that that nest egg, that wealth that we've built up, has conditions attached to it. We don't just want our children to be able to just take whatever they want. There's certain things that they have to do or achieve to unlock that wealth. And we want to ensure that there's plenty there left to continue to grow and support our other charitable endeavors also. So depending on where you live and the laws in your country, you can put wealth into trust, which allows conditions to be attached to that wealth and unlock it only if those conditions are met. So I would suggest you certainly talk to wills and estates and trust professionals that can help you do that. So the bottom line, set clear financial goals if you want to build generational wealth that long outlasts you. Step number 2, budgeting and saving. So this is a really obvious one. I've talked about this in previous videos, but it is so important. And I think in a previous video, I talked about how it's worth getting all your bank accounts and your credit card statements, etc., anything you spend money on over the last 6 months, and just go through everything with a really fine tooth comb. You'll actually surprise yourself with what you spend money on. And then look to make cuts and budget and savings where you can. And that amount of money that you can save in addition can be tucked away for helping to build generational wealth and a nest egg over time. Remember, to build generational wealth, you have to have a surplus, and that surplus needs to be consistent and it needs to grow every single month. Step number 3, investing wisely. Now, I can't stress how important this one is. Once you've figured out how to keep money every month and have a surplus, you need to understand how to make it grow and make it grow for you in the most effective way over time. So really understanding your investment options is important, and that's why hopefully videos like this and others and reading and absorbing yourself in the investment world can really help you. Now, for my family and I, what we typically do with any surplus money is we keep a proportion aside for cash. So for a rainy day, if there's bills, various unexpected things that may come up, holidays, etc., and that gets tucked away. And then the rest really gets split into real estate. So we have property, which produces rental income every month. We have stocks and shares, we have bonds and various other assets like gold and some art, which we build up over time to spread and diversify our risk. And all of that generates a return, either an income stream, or it should appreciate over time to continue to grow our wealth. Now, expect, if you're running a relatively low risk investment portfolio, to have your nest egg, your pot, grow by anything between 7 and 10% per year. Now, it doesn't sound like a lot, but actually the power of compounding works in your favor. So over time, as long as you're adding to it and continuing to generate those returns, you should end up with a pretty substantial nest egg or an investment pot by the time you need that wealth to either pass on, or you're retiring, or when you pass away and you want to pass it on. Step number 4, reducing bad debt. Now, notice I didn't say reduce debt, I said reduce bad debt. Now, if you don't know the difference between good debt and bad debt, I'll give you a quick summary now, but I would suggest that you read up on it because it's super important. So bad debt is the type of debt you take out to consume. Say you want to buy a holiday, or you want to buy clothes or a new car, something you're purchasing which doesn't give you an financial return, and you put that on a credit card or a loan or some other debt, and that you accumulate and then have to pay off and pay back plus interest. That's bad debt. Good debt is debt you take out which ultimately creates an income stream for you over and above the cost that you have to pay for servicing that debt, i.e. the interest. A very good, well-known example would be rental property. So me and my family hold rental property, so do many others. And that is an example of using debt, i.e. a mortgage, to buy the property, which you then rent out to tenants, you get income from, and that pays all of your costs, including your interest, your property maintenance, taxes, etc., and leaves you with a surplus every month. Plus you have an asset that in the property that hopefully appreciates over time. So that's good and bad debt in a nutshell. You want to reduce as much as possible and to zero your bad debt, because that's debt that is going to continue costing you money, and you're not going to be able to save that money and put it into your generational nest egg, and therefore you want to get rid of it as quickly as possible. So reduce bad debt as quick as possible. Step number 5, building multiple streams of income. Now, anybody who's building generational wealth knows that over long periods of time, you're going to experience different economic conditions. Sometimes they're good, where assets are going up, consumption's up, growth is up. And other times it's bad, where you may have recessions, incomes are going down, people are tightening their purse strings, economic activity is down. Over time, what you want to do is build multiple streams of income, so that if some of your streams of income are going down or struggling, you also have a good hedge through other streams of income which may do well. So for example, in my own investment portfolio, I have rental property, which in the UK where I live is fairly resilient given the areas that I invest in. So whether it's good or bad, my income streams are fairly resilient and they will weather them. I also have other income from businesses. I have income from stocks and shares, which may be more volatile depending on the economic environment. So if some are up and others are down, overall, I know that by building multiple streams of income, I'm well weathered. The opposite is if you are wholly reliant on one income stream, and if the economic environment turns against you, you're at real risk, because that one stream is vulnerable to an economic environment. So you really want to diversify and have multiple streams of income if you want to build generational wealth over time. Step number 6, estate planning. I can't stress how important this is. You're going to be working over many, many years, decades, to build generational wealth using some of the steps and tips that I've given you. What you want to be able to do is, when you've got a sizable pot, you want to protect it from taxes. Nothing wrong with paying taxes, and it's important to, of course, pay your fair share of taxes. But if you don't do good estate tax planning, you could pay a lot more to the government than you really need to. So getting good advisors around you that understand how to pay a fair share of tax and not excessive amounts of tax because you haven't planned well is critical. So good estate planning and wealth planning, I couldn't stress enough. Make sure you get it. And finally, step 7. And this is a non-monetary one that may surprise people, or maybe people don't think about as much, but it is actually probably the most important one. So step 7, which is probably the most important one, given it's going to outlast you long after you've gone, is developing values that stand the test of time. I mentioned some of those families before, those dynasties, the Rothschilds, the Rousings, the Ford family, the Vanderbilts, the Carnegies, the Rockfellers, etc., right? All of those families have values that have been passed down from generation to generation. It might be charitable work ethic, being of good moral character, helping others, truthful, whatever it may be. But all these values that get passed down really drive the behavior of the next generation within the family to continue the legacy of the original patriarch. And so I couldn't stress enough about really sitting down with your family to think through what are the values that are most important to us and what are the values that we want to transmit down to our children, and then they transmit down to their children, and so on and so forth. And that really drives really good behavior that not only helps our future generations, but benefits those charities and philanthropic endeavors, or whatever you may be supporting with your wealth that you've created over time. And so I would really stress focusing on that, maybe coming up with 4 or 5 key values that really resonate with you and your family. So there you have it, 7 steps to creating generational wealth, whether you're a beginner or not. I hope you found this video useful. Please hit the like or subscribe button. It really helps us to spread the word. And I look forward to seeing you on my next video.